Hi everyone, it's time for another episode of Atoms for the Love of Movie Picks. This time around, we're going to be talking about the 1984 hit film, The Terminator. This one is the anthology collection, the case, but we're going to be talking about number one. Kind of a cool case, got the Terminator face on the front. So this one here, I'm doing it as a shout out to my father-in-law Mike Duden, who asked me to review this movie for him, and also for his friend Michael Bean, who just so happens to star in this movie as Kyle Reese. So kind of interesting thing, and just as a shout out to him, some of the movies that he's been in over the course of his long acting career. 1978, he was played a character called Mike. It was an uncredited role in Grease. 1986, of course, he played a more well-known role, Corporal Hicks in Aliens, one of the sequels. 1989, he played Lieutenant Coffee in The Abyss. 1993, Johnny Ringo in Tombstone. 2007, he played Sheriff Haig in Planet Terror. And the most recent that I could find that I recognize is 2020. He played in an episode of The Mandalorian on Disney. The character's name was Lang. It was a one-episode thing, but still, notable series. So yeah, the premise of the movie, as most people would know, is that a cyborg killing machine from the future called the Terminator set back in time to 1984 to kill the mother of the son who becomes the leader of the resistance in the future in the war against the machines. And also, it's about the soldier who is also from the future, who is also sent back in time to save her from the Terminator. Some of the more well-known actors in this movie, as I already mentioned, you got Michael Biehn plays Kyle Reese, Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, Paul Winfield as Lieutenant Traxler, one of the cops, Lance Hendrickson, who also plays another cop, Vukojevic, and Earl Bowen, who plays, of course, the well-known Dr. Silberman. It's about the only ones that I recognize here without giving too much away. There's a couple other ones in here I recognize, but I'll get to them after. So the movie, of course, is directed by the legendary James Cameron. Starts off in Los Angeles in the year 2029. With a glimpse of what life would look like if the machines take over and basically rule the world. I like the look of the various terminating machines, or the machines that are created. They look very realistic and believable. If you were to envision what a futuristic war against machines would look like, I would say that's pretty much it. It's hard to picture anyone else playing the Terminator other than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, he just nails it. The look of him, just the seriousness of the character, because pretty much you're an emotionless robot. Like, you're not supposed to show any emotion, and I think he does it pretty good. Quickly moved to 1984 Los Angeles, and I don't know how many people know this, but that first scene with the Terminator and the three young punks features a young Bill Paxton as their leader, and Brian Thompson as one of the other gang members. You might remember him from his role as the Night Slasher in the 1986 film Cobra. And also as Shao Kahn in the 1997 sequel Mortal Kombat Annihilation. That's some of the other ones that are in there. And that opening scene, with Michael Biehn is Kyle Reese, where he steals the homeless guy's pants, is just kind of a hilarious sequel. He has no premise of right and wrong in this time frame. He just he's from a time where you do whatever you can to survive. And then he ends up stealing because he does that right in front of a cop, an LAPD officer. And they're chasing him down. He ends up stealing one of the officer's guns. I love the expression on his face as he asks, what day is it? The date. And after the cop, says, what the day and the month is, Reese goes, what year? Like, he has no clue. He wants to make sure he's in the right timeline. Classic line, classic scene. One of the things I love about the Terminator is, I love all the 80s elements of this movie, from the cops and their cop cars to the fashion / clothes of the era. You got, the hairstyles are just classic. You're watching an 80s movie just by the hairstyles. And, to the civilian, all the different civilian cars you see, it just classic vehicles of the 80s and previous decades to the 80s. And, of course, the music and also the technology. The retro technology, which was cutting edge back then. It's, retro now, but just kind of cool to see it in its prime. I just love everything about the 80s. Classic 80s movie. Love Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. I'm sorry. Another great performance that really makes the character of Sarah. I mean, it's, she does such a good job. It's hard to envision anyone else other than Linda Hamilton playing Sarah Connor. And then in the scene where the pawn shop owner, whom the Terminator shoots and kills and steals the guns from, is an actor by the name of Dick Miller. Another small role in the movie, but you might recognize him from the Gremlins movies 1 and 2. Plays Mr. Futterman, I believe is the character's name. And he was also played a lesser role in the movie Small Soldiers. Then you got the scene where the Terminator, kills the first Sarah Connor. It's just kind of a, gives you an idea of how deadly this machine is. He's cold, calculated, precise. Arnold really nails it, just like a machine would. Great performance from Arnold. Because as the Terminator doesn't know what the real Sarah Connor looks like, so he's basically going by alphabetical order in a phone book kind of thing. And then Reese, before he gets to Sarah, he flashbacks about fighting in the future war. They're pretty intense and show how much of a badass Reese was in the future. He's a pretty good soldier, one of the top fighters of the time for sure. And then you go to the another classic 80s thing. The clubs of the 80s. In this case, it's the tech noir scene where Sarah first meets Reese. And unfortunately, she also meets the Terminator for the first time. But before that whole scene plays out, you have the scene with the Terminator, with Sarah's roommate Ginger and her boyfriend Matt. Unfortunately, of course, the Terminator tries to locate her there first before finding her in the club. And unfortunately, they just happen to be home. Wrong place, wrong time. Classic scenario. And Matt, the boyfriend, actually puts up a pretty good fight considering he doesn't realize he's fighting an almost unstoppable killing machine, literally a killing machine. But he puts up a pretty good fight. But of course, eventually he kills both Matt and Ginger. Tragic circumstances again. Definitely a case of wrong place, wrong time for sure. And then you got the classic line that Reese gives to Sarah after he shoots the Terminator, tech noir. It's one of those lines that's kind of just transcended movie. It's become a part of almost pop culture, using even as a joking, sometimes a real. You got the "Come with me if you want to live," just a classic line. I love the intensity that Michael Biehn brings to the Reese character. It's very intriguing, and then also, it's intriguing listening to Reese tell Sarah about the Terminators, the war. Skynet, how her son John will eventually lead humanity from the brink of extinction to absolute victory. He really delivers it, makes the character very believable, spot on, and it really pulls you into the movie story-wise. Then you got the whole scene where the Terminator is fixing himself after crashing the cop car that he stole, and he was chasing after Sarah and Reese. It's both creepy and cool. It's just very great special effects at the time. I mean, obviously you can tell it's fake, but it's still neat to see the effects of the time. Just definitely an interesting scene, something you don't see very often. Reese, of course, ends up getting arrested by the police. Sarah's being held in protective custody by the police. They're both at the same police station, and then the Terminator comes for them after fixing himself at the apartment. And what my opinion is the best scene in the movie. It's my personal favorite scene. When the Terminator takes out basically the entire police station in one fell swoop, basically 30 cops, and utters probably the most famous line in the whole movie, and almost in movie culture. I mean, it's just become an iconic line. I think most people more know the line than know where it actually came from. He's looks around, does this thing very cold like a machine, surveying the situation, because the cop at the desk basically, he tells him he's a friend of, the Terminator tells the cop, and he's a friend of Sarah Connor's. He's here for Sarah Connor. And, he says, well, you can't see her right now. She's being interviewed, basically. Go away. And the Terminator, like I said, does this thing, looks around, looks dead at the cop, just with no expression, just I'll be back. Turns around, walks out. Brilliant. Such a simple line, but become one of the most recognizable lines that I can think of in movie history for sure. Uh, and then you've got and then you move from there on after that scene at the police station. You kind of get a glimpse of Reese and other people's life in the future. After they've escaped from the police station and they're just kind of on the run and just chilling somewhere under a bridge. I think it is. He's kind of explaining what his future is like, talking to Sarah. And it gives you an idea of how bleak that future is, and there's really not much to live for. You also get to see the infamous picture of Sarah Connor that Reese has with him, in the future setting. And basically find out that later on, of course, that picture was taken at the end of the film. And I love the scene with the Terminator and his landlord. Basically, they never really explain this very well in the movie exactly how the Terminator machine managed to secure an apartment. It's kind of confusing, but it sets up for a classically hilarious scene in the movie. You got like, lots of quips and one-liners in this movie, but the landlord comes up to him and asks him, "Hey, buddy, you got a dead cat in there or what?" Like, I guess because of the smell coming out of the apartment, probably from the dead flesh that's on the Terminator, and he just, you can see him. They show it like as if he's got like a screen that he chooses response from, and he chooses a reply, "F you, asshole." In the very solid, just Terminator tone. It's just the monotone of it is just hilarious. I love that line. It's pretty funny. And then you move on to the scene where the Terminator tricks Sarah into telling it where she is by impersonating her mother's voice, because she basically found out he stole her address book and her like contact book back at her apartment and figured out where her mother was, and when unfortunately I guess killed her mother, and impersonate her into tricking because it can replicate people's voices. It's kind of creepy, but also very intriguing. And then of course you got the final chase scene with the Terminator and that classic 1980s red Honda CB754 motorcycle, chasing after Reese and Sarah, and the classic looking 1973 Chevy C10 fleet side pickup. Just such a classic chase scene. And then after being knocked off his motorcycle by Sarah and Reese, the Terminator ends up stealing a transport tanker truck. And utters another well-known line to one of the truckers. Just very coldly looks over at him, "Get out." And then takes off in the truck after Sarah and Reese, who managed to blow up the truck with the Terminator inside, but they unfortunately do not blow up the Terminator. But because of the resulting fire, it does melt off all his like outer skin that he's wearing, and it kind of allows us to see the Terminator in its true form for the first time. It's really cool. And kind of terrifying at the same time to see this metal walking machine skeleton looking thing. He's pretty cool looking. And then of course they finally end up managing to kill the Terminator by crushing it inside a hydraulic press. But in the process, unfortunately, Reese is killed. But eventually we find out that Reese actually ends up is the father of John Connor. And John knew this all along, but of course he couldn't tell Reese this because it would change the course of history for the worst. So overall, it's a great sci-fi action movie. Great special effects, great makeup, and acting obviously is superb. Lots of well-known actors in the movie. Some of them are very early in their careers. But it's still a simple but effective storyline. It's very original and groundbreaking in 1984. One of my favorite movies, and one I would highly recommend to anyone, whether you've seen it, I don't know many people who haven't seen it, but if you haven't, definitely check it out for yourself. Pretty sure it's available in pretty much anywhere where movies are sold. Pretty sure you can find it on some streaming platforms. Obviously, it's an adult movie. It's a rated R movie, so not recommended for anyone under the age of 18. But do yourself a favor. Like I said, if you have seen it, see it again. If you haven't, definitely check it out. But go and see The Terminator. You will not be disappointed. Take care, folks. We'll see you in the next one.